Hey everyone! You know we love diving into these kind of controversial topics, and the FDA and food dyes, that's definitely got everyone talking.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys sent in a ton of articles, even some stuff from Reddit, so let's deep dive into it. Big news is the FDA, they're thinking about banning red dye #3,
Right?
and you want to know about the possible health effects and how this whole thing plays out globally.
We got it. This is huge because red dye #3, it's not like some rare ingredient.
Right.
We're talking about that super bright red color you see in tons of candy, cereal, drinks,
Oh yeah, definitely.
even some surprising things from that Reddit thread like Mountain Dew and vitamins.
Okay, wait, vitamins. I did not expect that on the list, but here's where it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Red dye #3, it actually comes from petroleum.
Oh.
I'm already kind of like, petroleum in my food. What does that even mean?
That's what everyone's wondering. Sounds kind of freaky, right? But remember, a lot of everyday stuff comes from petroleum.
Right. Yeah.
The thing is, this isn't the FDA's first time looking into red dye #3. They've been reviewing it since it was approved back in 1969. But this time there's a public petition and some serious pressure from Congress.
Oh, wow.
Congressman Pallone even sent a letter to the FDA specifically talking about kids and how they might be exposed to more of it during the holidays, when all those red treats are everywhere.
So it's not just about the science, it's public perception and politics, too.
Exactly. It's a lot of things all mixed together. So let's break down the arguments.
Yeah, okay.
People who want the ban, they point to studies that suggest a possible link to cancer in animals.
Right.
And then there's the whole debate about possible links to gut health and behavior problems, especially in kids.
Wait, hold on. What do we even mean by gut health here? Can you explain that a little more?
Sure. There's a lot of research going on right now looking at how these artificial food dyes might mess with the balance of bacteria in our digestive system, which can affect everything from how we digest food to our immune system.
Yeah.
More research is definitely needed to say for sure,
Yeah.
but scientists are saying, hey, let's be careful. The Center for Science and the Public Interest and some researchers from Harvard, they're pushing for something called the precautionary principle.
Okay, yeah. Remind me how that works again.
It basically says, even if we don't have absolute proof that something is harmful, if there's a good reason to think it could be harmful, it's better to be safe than sorry and take action to prevent problems.
Okay.
This approach is way more common in Europe, where a lot of countries, and even California, they've already banned red dye #3.
Oh, wow.
They're focused on avoiding potential harm, even if the science isn't 100% certain yet.
That's really interesting. So why has the U.S. always done things differently?
The U.S. usually waits for really strong evidence of harm before making any rules. A different way of thinking about risk, and it often means things take a lot longer to decide.
Okay.
But don't forget Congressman Pallone's argument that red dye #3 doesn't do anything good for us nutritionally. It's just there to make stuff look better,
Right.
maybe even tricking people into eating more than they should.
That brings up some interesting ethical questions. Is it really fair to use a dye just to make things look prettier, especially in products aimed at kids?
That's a big part of the debate. But we also got to think about the other side of things.
Yeah.
What are some of the downsides or arguments against a ban? What should we be considering?
Well, from reading through that Reddit thread, a lot of people are worried about what it'll cost.
Yeah.
Banning red dye #3 could mess with how companies make their stuff, and that might make prices go up for us, especially if the other dyes are more expensive.
That's a real concern. Companies would need time to figure out new recipes for their products, which could slow things down and make things cost more.
Right.
And even though this ban is getting a lot of attention, some people on Reddit are saying it won't really change much about how Americans eat. They're saying there's still tons of other unhealthy ingredients in our food.
So this ban might be more symbolic than anything else. A step in the right direction, but not a total fix. Exactly. It's a fascinating situation that shows how different countries think about food rules and how we balance the risks to health with what it costs and what people want.
It's like this one little dye is starting a much bigger conversation about how we think about food and how it affects our health.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we as consumers have a role to play in this conversation and that we can speak up for the kind of food system we want.
That's a great point. But before we jump into that, let's switch gears and see how this red dye #3 story fits into the global picture.
Okay, sounds good.
There's a lot to unpack there. So we've got the U.S. maybe moving towards a ban, but red dye #3 is already banned in a bunch of other countries, right?
That's right. It's banned in the EU and a lot of other places, too. But what's really interesting is that it's even banned in California.
That makes me think about something California often seems to be ahead of the game when it comes to this kind of stuff. Would you say that's true? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, California tends to be more proactive. They often set stricter standards than the federal government for all sorts of things like environmental and health regulations. It's kind of like they're running a real-life experiment in food regulation.
That's a cool way to think about it. So if California can ban red dye #3 without any major problems, could that make the argument for a nationwide ban even stronger?
It definitely could.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives the rest of the U.S. some real data to look at.
Right.
If California shows that there are good alternatives and that it doesn't hurt the economy too much, that weakens the arguments against a bigger ban.
I'm also curious how food companies would react to a nationwide ban. Would they change their recipes to follow the rules, or would they just stop selling certain things in certain places?
It's a great question, and it's probably something they're trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
Their response will probably depend on a few things. The cost of using different dyes will be a big factor.
Right.
They'll also have to think about whether they'll lose money if they change how a product looks.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine some companies might even see this as a marketing opportunity. They
Yeah.
could promote their products as being dye-free or all-natural to appeal to people who are more health conscious.
Exactly. A ban could actually push companies to come up with new ideas and make products that people want more of.
Hmm.
And this brings up a really important point. Consumer demand plays a huge role in all of this.
Right. The more people want products without artificial dyes, the more likely companies are to listen.
Exactly. It reminds us that we have a voice and that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
By making smart choices about what we buy, we can influence the market and even push for bigger changes in how our food is regulated.
It's like we're all part of this giant feedback loop. Our choices affect the market, which affects the rules, and then that all comes back around to affect our choices again.
That's a great way to put it. This whole red dye #3 debate is just one example of that happening. It's happening with all kinds of stuff in our food, from artificial sweeteners to preservatives.
Speaking of other additives, this whole conversation makes me wonder what else might be next. What are some other controversial ingredients that might be under the microscope soon?
That's a great question to think about. This potential ban could start a chain reaction where people start looking more closely at other additives that might be harmful.
Are there any specific examples that come to mind?
Well, high fructose corn syrup has been a hot topic for years.
Right.
There are concerns about its links to obesity and metabolic problems.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial sweeteners are another one, with ongoing research into their potential long-term health effects.
I remember when Mountain Dew took out brominated vegetable oil, or BVO, after everyone got upset.
Oh, yeah.
It was used to keep the drink stable, but some studies suggested it might be bad for you. The EU had already banned it, and eventually the US followed suit.
That's a perfect example of how consumer pressure and global trends can impact regulations here in the U.S. And it brings up a crucial question for you, the listener, to think about. If red dye #3 does get banned, what other common food additives should be next?
This is where your own curiosity comes in. What ingredients do you want to learn more about? Do your own research. Dig into the science and see what you find out.
That's what we're all about on the deep dive. We want to empower you to be an informed and thoughtful consumer.
So let's change gears one last time. We've covered a lot, from the science behind red dye #3 to how it's regulated around the world. Now let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. This red dye #3 thing, it feels like we're just scratching the surface when it comes to food additives and how they might be affecting our health.
Yeah, totally. It really highlights how complicated this whole system is. You've got the science, the regulations, what consumers want, and what companies are willing to do. There are just so many pieces to the puzzle.
And it's tough to figure it all out as consumers, right? We're always getting hit with information about what's good for us and what's not, and it's not always clear what to believe.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's why it's more important than ever to think critically. We can't just take everything we hear at face value.
Right.
We have to look at the evidence, consider different viewpoints, and come to our own conclusions based on what we learn.
This whole deep dive has really shown me how important it is to do your own research and not just rely on what you see in headlines or hear in quick sound bites.
Exactly. Dig deeper. Look into where the information is coming from. Think about who's paying for the research, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
And I think that goes beyond just food additives. It's about being an informed and active citizen in every part of our lives.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether it's healthcare, the environment, or politics, we need to be critical thinkers and get involved in shaping the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. This red dye #3 conversation, it's like a mini version of the bigger trends and challenges we're facing as a society. It's about questioning things, demanding transparency, and fighting for policies that match up with what we believe in.
I started this deep dive with a bunch of questions about red dye #3, and now I'm leaving with even more questions about the food we eat and the choices we make every day.
And that's a good thing. Curiosity and wanting to keep learning those are so important. This is a conversation that's always going on, and we're all a part of it.
So as we wrap things up, we want to leave you with this thought. This whole thing with red dye #3, it could be the start of a much bigger change in how we think about and regulate food in this country.
Yeah, for sure.
What other additives are you thinking about? What changes would you like to see?
Keep exploring these questions. Do your own research, talk to your friends and family about it, and use your voice to speak up for a healthier and more sustainable food system.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of food dyes regulations and consumer power. We hope you found it informative and empowering. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions.